We're going to talk about order of operations. So first in this example, I want you, without using a calculator, to try and calculate this. So pause it right now and try. Now, when I teach this in the large lecture, I got answers from 31 to 11, 1, etc. I got quite a few different answers. So the fact that we're getting different answers says that we need to learn about the order of operations. If we want everyone in the whole world to get the same answers when they do a problem, we all have to do it the same way. So you might remember a mnemonic from your other math classes of please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. This stands for PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. These are parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Now we write them out in that order, but multiplication and division are kind of grouped together, and addition and subtraction are also grouped together. So multiplication and division, those are grouped. They have to be before addition and subtraction. But multiplication and division, they both kind of happen at the same time while you move from left to right. We do left to right because that's the order that we read in. And addition and subtraction happen at the same time while going from left to right. So multiplication and division are a group, and they always come before addition and subtraction, which are a group. Let's try this. We want to try that same problem again using the order of operations. So the order of operations says parentheses. Now there is a set of parentheses right here, but that's not parentheses telling me to do something grouping it. It's just saying multiply. So this is just a multiply parentheses. So we have division and multiply, but we do those in order from left to right. So we'll do the 8 divided by 2 first. So 8 divided by 2 is the first thing we'll do. So it'll be 12 plus 8 divided by 2 is 4 times 5 minus 1. So now we're looking, we have an addition, a multiply, and a minus. So we'll do the multiply first. So we'll have 12 plus 4 times 5 is 20 minus 1. Now we have an addition, subtraction. Those are at the same level, but you do them from left to right. So we'll do 12 plus 20 is 32 minus 1. And now that's all we have left, so just 31. So that is the correct answer. Now you can try and put it in your calculator. Play with your calculator until you can get the same answer again. Most calculators are pretty good at order of operations as long as you have enough parentheses when you need them, which isn't this problem yet. So let's simplify this problem by hand and then try it again with our calculators. So I have a minus, divide, times, and plus. So again, division and multiplication come first from left to right. So we'll do 12 divided by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3 times 2 plus 7. So this times is what we'll do next. Multiplication is next. So 12 minus 3 times 2 is 6 plus 7. Now we have minus and plus. We just do those from left to right. So we'll do 12 minus 6. That's 6 plus 7 gives me 13 as my final answer. Let's talk about grouping symbols. So grouping symbols separate portions of our calculation into groups. So that tells us which numbers or things belong together or should be done first together. So parentheses are the most commonly used grouping symbol. You've seen them in lots of other classes. The problem with parentheses is they can also be used for multiplication. So which is kind of sad because I could do like 2 times 3, that means 6. That's an example of parentheses being used for multiplication. So parentheses in this, like 12 minus 8 divided by 4 plus 3. The parentheses around the 12 minus 8 means we need to do that 12 minus 8 first before we do anything else, because in our order of operations we had parentheses first. So let's try each of these by hand and see what we can do. So when I look at this, you have to do parentheses first. So it's 12 minus 8 means do that part first. So 12 minus 8 is 4 divided by 4 plus 3. Now you have to do divide before addition. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, plus 3 gives me 4. So I made it to 4. Now let's see what would have happened on this problem if we didn't have the parentheses. So notice this is exactly the same, but no parentheses. So on this one, you have a minus, divide, plus. So you'll do the divide first. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 12 minus 2 plus 3. And then between subtraction and addition, you just do it left to right. So do 12 minus 2 as 10 plus 3, or 13. Notice we got very different answers with those parentheses. So parentheses make a big difference. And this one I have one set of parentheses, so let's do that. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. So 3 times negative 2 plus 5 times 6. So again, these parentheses, now that I've done everything inside of them, it's just 3 times. It just becomes a multiplication. So multiplication, addition, multiplication. Do it left to right. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6 plus 5 times 6. Now we have an addition and multiplication. Do the multiplication first. So it'll be negative 6 plus 30, which gives me positive. Negative 6 plus 30 is going to be positive 24. Now let's switch gears slightly. With a calculator, without us talking about it, I want you to try and put this into your calculator. So make sure you pause it at this point and put it in. When I did it before, I had students give me answers, and I got anything from 58 over 5 to 41. I got a lot of different answers. Obviously, this is an issue, so let's talk about how to fix it. So in this problem had a fraction bar. Now a fraction bar is just another example of a grouping symbol. So we have parentheses, now we have fraction bars. They group things. So this calculation involves two groups. The numerator is what we often call the top. So everything on the top is one calculation. And the denominator, everything on the bottom, is another calculation. So order of operations again says do everything in groups first before anything else. So we didn't write it before, but up above when we had, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, we said parentheses, and it should say parentheses or any other grouping symbols. So let's go back to that first page to write it in. It should say parentheses and other grouping symbols. So in our case, that includes fraction bars. So to calculate this, we're going to want to do everything on the top and everything on the bottom separately, and then go ahead and do the rest of it. Now within each group, we still follow the previously discussed rules. So like in this group here, we have multiplication and subtraction. We still have to do multiplication first. So let's try it by hand. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do everything on the top and everything on the bottom. So the top is 12 plus 6. That's very simple at 18. The bottom has a few more things. 12 times 5 minus 1. So we have to do multiplication first. So this will be 10 minus 1, which gives me 9. So now come back over here. So the top simplified to 18, the bottom simplified to 9. Now you may or may not remember, a fraction bar means divide. So 18 divided by 9 is going to give me 2. Let's try this next one. So again, I'm going to come off to the side and do everything on the top and everything on the bottom. The top is negative 12 minus 5. So negative 12 minus 5 will give me negative 17. The bottom was 2 times 5 plus 7. So we'll do this 2 times 5. We do the multiplication first, so that will be 10 plus 7 gives me positive 17. So coming over here, this leaves me with negative 17 over positive 17 minus 1. So again, fraction means divide, so division comes before subtraction. So we'll do that part first. So negative 17 divided by positive 17 gives me negative 1. So we have negative 1 minus 1, which gives me negative 2. Now, what does this mean for our calculator? Our calculator can't see grouping symbols like you can. So I see that fraction and I see what's included on the top and what's included in the bottom. Your calculator doesn't see that. So you have to use a lot of parentheses when you try and put it in your calculator. These are kinds of things that we might put in our calculator in this class, so make sure you know how to do it. So I would have to put parentheses around everything on the top and everything on the bottom. So let's see what that would look like. In my calculator, I would do parentheses 12 plus 6 parentheses divided by, then I need a big set of parentheses, 2 times 5 minus 1. Now at this point you can do 2 and parentheses 5 to do 2 times 5 or do the times symbol. Your calculator will recognize it either way. But you should again get 2. For this next one, you'll need parentheses around the top and bottom. So it should look like, now this minus 12, you'll probably want to put in your calculator with the negative symbol. Okay. So negative 12 minus 5 parentheses divided by 2 times 5 plus 7. So notice you had parentheses around the top, parentheses around the bottom, and then just minus 1. You should get negative 2. Make sure you keep putting these in until you can get the right answers. The only other grouping symbol we will use in this class will be the square root, and we'll talk about that later. On the next page, you need to try to put each of these into your calculator. So we'll pause while you try and put it in. Now that you've tried them on your own, let's go through and see what you got. Our first problem, you just have that one set of parentheses. Depending on your settings on your calculator, you might have gotten a few different answers. You might have had 10.75. You might have had 43 over 4 as a fraction, or you might have, probably not, but you might have had 10 and 3/4. Let me rewrite that. So you might have gotten any of those answers. Those would all be considered okay in this class. In this class, I am not very picky about whether you have decimals, fractions, percentages, but we will have another math skills video about how to change back and forth between the three of these. These are all equivalent. Any of those would have been okay. Our next one, make sure you have parentheses around the top and the denominator. If I was putting it into my calculator, it would look something like 72.5 minus 70 divided by 3 divided by 2. Now I might have gotten 5/3, or it might look like 1 2/3, or it might be 1.666666666, etc. There's a few ways you could write that depending again on your calculator. It might have been written as 1.6 with a little line for repeating, or you might have written yourself 1.66, or you might have rounded to 1.67. Any of these answers would all be okay. Our next problem, again, you need parentheses around the top and parentheses around the denominator. So this should give you 5/3 again. That's because notice it is the exact same problem, but here they did a divide symbol. Here we just did a fraction symbol, but it was the same problem. So 5/3 or 1.6666, depending on any of these different ways that we had to write it. You can choose. My next problem, again, just make sure you have parentheses around the top and bottom. You might notice looking at it, this is a -9. So on your calculator, make sure you use the negative button for that -9 to get your right answer. So you should have 55 over 48, or it might be 1.14583. You might notice there was a repeating sign over the 3 on your calculator maybe. Or you might have rounded it to 1.15. And we will have a video about rounding as well. The last problem, you might have thought something was wrong with your calculation because you might have gotten something strange like this, like 2.35 times 10 to the -4, or you might have gotten 2.35 e to the -4, except for your calculator probably just writes it down low like this, e to the -4, or it might have been 0.000235. These all mean the same thing. This is called scientific notation. If you're curious, you can go look for that video as well right now.